Not often do you get to stand up here and introduce somebody who is a very dear friend. Our next speaker is just that person, a 23-year MDRT member with 7 Court of the Tables and 4 Top of the Table qualifications. He hails from Nashville, Illinois, in the United States. Brian is one of MDRT's most enthusiastic, hardworking, and dedicated supporters. He has volunteered numerously throughout his MDRT career and culminated in some leadership positions within the Roundtable, and equally passionate about the MDRT Foundation. As the 2010 Divisional Vice President of the annual meeting, he was very successful in introducing new innovative ideas that made last year's meeting in Vancouver extremely successful, very positive, and well received by many of our members. It is a great pleasure that I welcome my dear friend Brian Heckert to the stage. Please give him a warm MDRT welcome.
Wow, what an honor and a pleasure to be speaking to you here in this vibrant country. To be part of this experience meeting, the MDRT experience meeting in Singapore. I want to congratulate everybody for making the choice to be here, to gather new ideas, and best of all, gather new friends. My challenge today is going to be bring everybody out of their seats and into my passion for MDRT. For me, MDRT is so much more than just a meeting. It's become a way of life in everything I do. Our work lives, our family lives, and our business lives can all be improved by the lessons learned and the relationships developed through MDRT. The ideas shared at the meetings will give us the edge against the competition when it's needed most. But it's the network of friends from around the world who are there for us through the good times and the tough times. This is the most important part of MDRT, and probably the hardest to explain to people who are not members. It goes much deeper than just another group of friends. A friend at MDRT will not only share an idea, but they'll share their wealth. Not the monetary type of wealth, but the internal wealth which makes them successful. It's an inner hunger and a desire to be the best and a passion to help others do the same. This is what makes MDRT special and why MDRT, or living an MDRT life every day of the year, has become so important to me and many of our members. My hope is that it will become just as important for everyone here today. Many of us keep a diary or some kind of scheduling software to track our appointments and to stay organized. It might be a simple desk calendar, it could be a day timer, it could be Outlook on your computer or your cell phone. To signify the time needed for an appointment or the time needed to complete a project, we often use a dash mark. A little line separating the beginning time and the end time to know how long we have to complete the task. For a client appointment, we'll mark this off with a dash, say, from 0800 to 0900. While planning for this trip to Singapore, we put a dash mark across 4 days, from February 23rd through February 26th. For time with our families, for a vacation, we'll take a big line and mark it across the entire week because we want to signify the importance of the time that we have with our family. My presentation today is even marked off with a little dash mark on my BlackBerry. So the dash becomes an important way to signify the importance of the time between when we start and when we end. It marks the time between when we arrive and when we leave. As we think about the importance of the dash, we should ask ourselves a very important question. Are we using our dashes to the fullest? Are we delivering the maximum possible value to our clients during the hour or two they grant us for an appointment? Are the people around us better off because they've spent time in our dashes? Are we giving our families the dashes they deserve? Because it's not when we begin or end our time together that's important. Nor is it even when we arrive or when we leave that makes the difference. It's the time we spend while we are there, the time between the beginning and the end. This is the dash of time that they remember most. We're all given a limited number of dashes by our clients to make an impact in their lives. We're granted precious few dashes with our families, and once they're gone, they can never be replaced. In the end, the most important dash of time will be that little dash on our tombstones, a little line signifying the date between when we were born and the date we died. It is this final dash that will determine if we lived a life to the fullest or if there was more we could have accomplished. Others have lived a life of significance and have filled their dashes. Are we doing everything we can to make ours significant? Being a member of MDRT and living an MDRT 365 life is one way of assuring our dashes will be lived to the maximum. For the last 84 years, MDRT has been a place where the best in our industry gather to help each other grow and become stronger. Every member, from the newest to those who have been members for a long time, benefit from the sharing of ideas and the relationships strengthened with every meeting. Many of those ideas come from the leaders of long ago who have left their legacy in an idea passed from generation to generation. Like a forest of trees, the smaller trees are made stronger by their effort to grow towards the sunlight. In turn, the taller trees are also made stronger as they reach for that same sunlight. And both are nourished by the ideas and the legacy of trees long gone. In addition to the many other benefits of MDRT, one of the most overlooked is volunteering at the annual meeting. The other one is serving on the committees that MDRT has to offer. I've been very fortunate to have served on numerous committees over the years, but my personal favorite came last year as Divisional Vice President of the Program Development Committee. The primary responsibility of our committee was to select the speakers for the annual meeting in Vancouver. However, we were also asked to find a way to extend the benefits of the annual meeting throughout the year. Members who attend the annual meeting were repeatedly stating that they were looking for ways to extend the excitement level of the annual meeting throughout the year. Our answer was a program called MDRT 365. One benefit of MDRT 365 is a series of webinars given throughout the year by actual main platform speakers. But another benefit is helping create connections with other members to share sales ideas. It was 32 members who linked together in 1927 to form a study group, and they became the $1 Million Roundtable. Today, it's 32,000 members linked together in a virtual study group on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is MDRT 365. This is the power of the networking that will help take our production to the next level. So what's driving us to the next level? What's driving us to reach for a higher goal? Are we driven by where we started in life, or are we driven by our destinations? Are we driven by the goals we set? The desire to get away from where we started in life, or the desire to return to a significant event in our past, can be a powerful force, overriding everything we do. As an example, having been a young athlete, a successful young athlete, or having lived through a very unfortunate trauma during childhood will shape our lives in either positive or negative ways. Both of these examples can drain our creative energy from our lives by either trying to relive these times of glory, or worse yet, trying to block those negative thoughts from our minds forever. It can become an obsession to look to these past events while overlooking opportunities to start towards a new destination. However, in my experience with successful MDRT members, I find most are driven by an overriding desire to reach for a destination or a goal. It becomes their driving force to strive for lofty goals instead of looking backward, either trying to live their past or trying to relive their past. My own life was transformed by an MDRT member who knew I was in need of a destination. He shared with me a videotape of a speech given at the annual meeting by Dr. Lane Longfellow. Dr. Longfellow was a psychologist, and he detailed examples in his life where he decided to overcome unfortunate events in his past. He spoke of how he set a new course in his life by focusing on his future as a physician and not being distracted by those events in his past. He spoke of the power of the mind, as you heard earlier, to move towards the most dominant thoughts, and they could be either positive or negative. The choice, he said, is ours. It was the first time I had heard such a positive message, and because it became a turning point in my life, his example of running towards a goal instead of running from a past experience gave me a new way to look at my own life, a life now driven by a destination. Growing up, my childhood was filled with memories of watching my mother deal with the ravages of mental illness. My family and I witnessed firsthand the destruction of hope that came by her trying to relive events in her past. Dr. Longfellow's message gave me permission to make a clean break from my own past. It was a past defined by choices I made in dealing with her illness. A past filled with negative thoughts, and more importantly, and more negatively, negative friends. It was at this point I decided to set a destination bar in my own life, and that's when I accepted a position to become a life insurance agent. I was only 21 at the time, with no college degree. My only qualification was that I wanted to become something better. Although I didn't see it in myself at the time, my manager saw the potential. And he told me the income in this business was unlimited if I would just simply follow his 3 rules of success. They were: first, set meaningful goals and write them down. Second, learn something new every day. And third, meet at least 10 successful people about their insurance needs. It's simple enough. Notice he said 10 successful people, not just people. He explained successful people have the same needs as others, but they can afford what we do. Well, when I wrote down my goals that first year, number 1 on the list was to make MDRT by the end of the year. My second goal was to call on enough people so that I could schedule 10 appointments per week. Additional goals in those early days included things like saving $600 of cash and taking a family trip for a weekend, and eventually buying a big blue luxury car. In those early years, I would also set a goal of reaching top of the table, hoping to eventually get to that level of production, but knowing it was more of a dream than a goal. Well, to help reinforce my goals, I would cut out the pictures of the big blue luxury car, the locations where we wanted to take our vacation, and the pictures of the city where we were holding the next MDRT meeting. I'd place them around the house and on my desk to remind me daily of where I wanted to be. To learn something new, I'd pass the time driving in my car listening to audio tapes from annual MDRT meetings, which were filled with sales ideas from some of the industry legends. It was easy for me to visualize sitting in the audience and watching them deliver their speech and imagining one day, too, I'd be at the meeting. And just maybe, being on stage myself. Well, much has changed over my life over the past 25 years, but my desire to succeed is not. As you heard earlier, the mind is a powerful tool, and it will move towards the most dominant thoughts given to it daily. Just like the autopilot on an aircraft, as you heard, the mind will seek the destination programmed into it by our goals and our dreams. Regular review and tracking of these goals has forced me to see more prospects, which naturally results in more sales. It's not difficult. Over the years, the commitment to setting goals and reaching them has paid off handsomely. I was finally able to get that $600 in the bank, and just a little bit more for safe measure. My family and I have taken wonderful vacations around the world, and I've owned at least 2 big blue luxury cars, just like in the picture. Setting goals and qualifying for MDRT is still very important to me. This year is my 23rd consecutive year and my 4th top-of-the-table qualification. Now, instead of setting the goal, thank you. Now, instead of setting the goal to reach MDRT by the end of the year, it's to reach MDRT by the end of January. and reaching top of the table is still very important, but it's to be there by the end of June. And today, I reached another goal by speaking here in Singapore, and I want to thank all of you for helping me make that happen. Well, the most amazing things happen when we try and learn something new every day. While listening to all those tapes in the early years of my career, an idea by past President Lyle Blessman would be responsible for my very first large life insurance sale. Lyle lives in a very rural area, much like I do, and there are never enough wealthy people around for him to reach his goals. He spoke how he would take a chance and drive or fly his own airplane many, many miles to wherever he found a large enough prospect to call on. It was an important message for me to hear at the time. I'm sure, like many of you, I've been told by other agents in the office that I'm supposed to only call on people within 5 years of my age and only in towns close to where I live. I was 21 and I lived in a town of 3,000. While attending my first insurance company sales convention in Bermuda, I'd have an opportunity to put his idea to action. My wife and I were sitting on a bench waiting for the bus to take us down to a beach when another older couple sat down and started talking. I listened as they messed around and talked about their shiny new Rolex watches, marveling at the amount of diamonds in each one. Well, for the new agents in the room, this is kind of a good clue that this is a good prospect. They're obviously very proud of their new purchases and wealthy enough to afford them, so I leaned over and commented on how nice their watches looked. Now, talking to complete strangers in a foreign country was not normal for me, so I had to rely on the knowledge gained by listening to all those MDRT tapes. Well, we talked a little bit longer, and he asked me, why was I in Bermuda? I was kind of proud, so I told him I was attending a sales convention with an insurance company, and I was one of their top agents. He looked at me, and he said, that's funny. His accountant just told him before he left on this trip to buy a large life insurance policy to pay his estate obligations. But he didn't know any insurance agents. He then asked if I would be interested in working with him. Another note, this is kind of another buying signal. Only a few minutes before, he was simply a stranger sitting on a beach with a beautiful watch, and now he was a fully qualified, very wealthy prospect. Without even really thinking it through, I told him of course I would. Well, we walked around a little bit on the beach, and I got to know him a little bit better. He told me his life story, and as he talked, I just simply listened. He explained how he started a successful real estate business at the age of 17 as an immigrant carpenter in the United States, and he grew it into millions of dollars of apartment buildings. He also told me some very wild stories about hunting and fishing, and he became very animated and waving his hands as he started to describe his adventures. I began to wonder to myself if he was telling the truth, or maybe was he just a little bit crazy. In fact, some of the other agents with the company saw me talking to this wild man and wondered what was happening. They later told me they thought about coming over and rescuing me from the conversation so my wife and I could enjoy the beach. We finished our conversation with a handshake, and he invited me to fly halfway across the United States to work with him on his insurance needs. Although I was completely out of my league in terms of experience, I decided to take the chance. I booked the flight to see him as soon as I returned home from the convention. When I finally arrived at his business a few weeks later, in my brand new suit that I just bought, I had to wait for over an hour in a very hot room as his staff told me he was very busy. You can imagine the thoughts sitting there as they ran through my head and the sweat drenched my clothes. Did he really mean it when he said he needed insurance? Had he done this to other agents just to eventually brush him off? Did he have the money I thought he did, or was his life just that, a made-up story? When he finally arrived, my heart sank. He drove up an old rusty car and stood before me in grease, covering him head to toe. My suit was now completely soaked wet from the heat and the emotions. He apologized for being late, and he asked if I minded riding with him to go pick up a truck. My heart sank even further as I pushed aside greasy tools on the seat. As we drove along, he had that same spark of energy as he did when we were talking on the beach in Bermuda. except he would stop from time to time and point out the houses he built as a young man. Looking out the window, I began to notice all the street signs had the names of his family members on them. When he finally arrived at the truck dealership to pick up a truck, I stood in amazement as I watched him write a check for over $500,000 to buy not one truck, but 5. Again, another huge buying signal. Well, there's much more to this story, but a lot of hard work and a few more trips back and forth to see him, he eventually became a client. In the end, he purchased a single life insurance policy large enough to qualify me for my very first MDRT meeting. Without the knowledge and confidence gained from listening to those early MDRT tapes, I may have simply ignored him on that bench in Bermuda, always hoping to meet a great prospect, but never having the courage to take action. Well, once I became a member of MDRT and attended my first meeting, it became evident that MDRT was much more than sales ideas. The meetings are also about volunteering and leadership. Volunteering to work at the annual meeting adds a whole new benefit to the membership experience. Some of my best friends and some of my best sales ideas have come from working side by side with the industry's biggest producers. We have a saying at the meeting: it is our production which will get us into MDRT. It is volunteering which will get MDRT into us. My first volunteer leadership role came in 1995. It was our committee's job to make sure that the exhibitors at the annual meeting were handled and that their meeting experience went well. This position required a lot of work throughout the year before the meeting, which made it very, very difficult for me to keep my production up to a level my goals demanded. Like many volunteer duties we're all faced with, it would have been easy enough to just say I didn't have enough time. With 4 young kids at home, my wife and I were under a lot of financial pressure and never having enough time to spend together as a family. The additional time volunteering added more stress to an already stressful year. However, it was this year that I realized that volunteering does not take away from our production and our family life. Volunteering can actually add more sales and increase our income, allowing for more quality time with our family. My involvement finally became an investment. One of the exhibitors at the meeting shared with me an idea so powerful it has changed the way I prospect and has completely changed my career. The idea did not come from the products he was selling, but how he sold his products. I'm certain that if I had not had the opportunity to work on this committee, the idea would have never come to my attention. And this idea has the power to change the way we all do business. While talking to the exhibitor, he explained that his best clients were all MDRT members. Instead of trying to call each member individually, he would set up a booth at the meeting and all of his prospects would come to him. This is when it hit me. If I want to find prospects who are exactly like my best clients, we should go to their meetings and become part of their associations. As soon as I returned from the annual meeting, I approached my best clients to see if they were members of an association. Many of them helped me become a member, and over the next few years, I ended up attending meetings as an exhibitor at their meetings, setting up my own booth with information about my firm. Almost all the attendees will stop by and ask questions on insurance and estate planning and retirement plans. Many request a phone call or even a face-to-face appointment after they return home to go into more detail. And best of all, associate members are often asked to speak as experts on insurance and estate planning issues. This is the origin of an idea I call 100-to-1 marketing, and it has dramatically changed my business. Instead of just looking for one prospect at a time, we're positioned to see many, many excellent prospects over just a few days, and they come to see me. The 100-to-1 approach can work wherever a group of people who have similar interests gather. Hopefully, you can find a way to adapt it to your market, or a version of this approach will work for you. As I mentioned earlier, volunteering is an important part of MDRT. but did you ever think it could save someone's life? Last year, volunteering may have saved thousands of lives. During the 2010 annual meeting in Vancouver, the foundations of the United States, Japan, and Canada sponsored a project called the Million Meal Challenge. Our goal was to package over 1 million rice and soy-based meals to be distributed to starving families around the world. This is one of the largest volunteer projects that MDRT had ever taken on in its history. And our committee was responsible for the successful completion by the end of the meeting. But there were many, many obstacles to overcome. The project was so large that it would require over half of the attendees to give at least 2 hours of their time during the meeting if we were going to reach our 1 million meal goal. Well, in true MDRT fashion, we took on the challenge as one big team. The foundation boards agreed to donate the initial money to buy the material, and over 2,300 members gave up at least 2 hours and many as much as 30 hours of their meeting time bagging meals over a 4-day period. When the final day came, when the meals were counted and the total was announced, we reached our 1 million meal goal while raising over $230,000 for the foundation. Giving just a little dash of time and a little bit of treasure assured over 1 million people would live a better life, if only for a little bit. Probably the most powerful benefit of MDRT membership is the study group concept. MDRT was originally formed in 1927 as a group of top life insurance agents who gathered together based upon the large amount of life insurance they sold. For the first time, MDRT allowed and encouraged agents from different companies to gather and share their sales ideas. This is the beginning of what we now know of as the study group. Well, in 1997, my own study group was formed, and our members come from different companies, different parts of the United States, and we all work in completely different practices. But we have one common goal, a commitment to help each other grow our businesses and improve our family lives. Our semi-annual meetings are focused on the newest sales ideas each of us pick up from our various meetings and office efficiency tips from each of the offices. We communicate almost daily on technical issues, on questions on products, and often on different technology issues. We'll often split business with each other or maybe just refer clients to one another depending upon the specialty of the people in the office. We include our staffs in our meetings, and they have developed their own networks to help solve their issues that they come across on a day-to-day basis. To expand outside of our study group, we invite successful top-of-the-table members from around the world to share their ideas. We'll often travel to their offices to see firsthand how the best in the world operate their practices. It's a very huge investment of time and money to have the successful meetings that we require, but the results speak for themselves. When we started, the total combined production of the entire group of the original 11 members was around $750,000 of production. Last year, the combined production of the 5 remaining offices was over $9 million, more than a 20% annual increase in production. This didn't happen by accident. It was the result of a strict commitment of holding each other accountable. Starting a study group is easy, and there are many resources available through MDRT. You can go to the website, shoot me an email, and I'll happily give you ideas on how to start your own. Good luck on starting yours. Well, my time on this program is almost done, but there are 2 more days left. Take time. Find another member who wants to share the passion for this business. Start your own study group. If starting a study group isn't an option at this time, find just one other person, exchange business cards, and stay in touch throughout the year. Next year, when you come back to the experience meeting, add another member and another member. And pretty soon you'll have your own study group to share your passion for MDRT in this business. We started our time together talking about the importance of the dash. A year from now, this dash of time may only be a faded memory, and my name will be long forgotten. However, my wish to you is that one of the stories told this afternoon or one of the ideas shared will inspire you to make a difference in the dashes of the people around you, your clients, your coworkers, and best of all, your families. To close our time together, I'd like to share with you a poem written by Linda Ellis that expresses perfectly how I feel about the importance of living our dashes to the fullest. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on a tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth, spoke of that following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. And be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. And love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. And treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile. Remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. And if we could slow down just enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spend your dash? Well, I wish you all the best as you live your MDRT 365 life. I will see you in Atlanta. Thank you.